All right, guys, I don't know why he always leaves the intro to me, but in any event, welcome to another episode of Breakfast with Mark and Jen.
Yeah.
And since he's going to take the first bite of his bagel,
listen, I gotta eat.
I'll kick off the...
I'm hungry today.
Okay. He's a breakfast guy.
I love breakfast. So my thing is that you have to eat breakfast like you're a grown man. So my thing is breakfast. I eat 2 egg sandwiches. So I actually
Unless you're not a grown man.
Listen, I can't answer for people that I can't identify with. I'm a grown man.
Okay.
So I go in for breakfast. So when we start these things, I gotta take a bite. Oh yeah.
All right. We both have coffee, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
We're coffee lovers, and we have our favorite cups. I'm just giving the people a little bit behind the scenes of what we love. So I love girly things. He loves all things San Francisco 49ers.
Let's go.
Let's shout out to those who gifted this pair of cups to us.
Right. And by the way,
that know us well.
When you rock fitteds, when you rock hats and brims and stuff, you don't just wear the hat of your favorite team. So my team is the 49ers.
At least not up north.
Right. But I could wear a Sixers hat. Why? Because it matches.
Right.
We not out here.
No, but ever since we moved to the South, anytime you wear a hat, people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were a 76ers fan.
And you're I don't like the Sixers.
Yeah.
It matches. So I got a bunch of fitteds, and it doesn't matter what team it is.
Yeah, I grew up in Maryland seeing guys wear hats or fitteds based on, like you said, whether or not it matched, not based on whether or not that was their team. But down south, it's almost like if it's not your team, you shouldn't be wearing it.
That makes no sense.
So it's weird. Y'all from the South, let us know if that's what y'all's mentality is.
However, there is always an exception.
Mm-hmm.
And you will never catch me in a Boston Red Sox hat. Absolutely not.
Well, yeah.
I don't care if it matches. I'm going to choose another team. I will not rock the Red Sox. Mm-hmm. Yankees all day, every day. All right. Just had to get that out, y'all. So.
All right. So today we have kind of an interesting topic, I think, because what inspired it is the fact that I've been seeing this meme circulated on social media at least for a year, if not longer.
Mm-hmm.
And the meme says, or really asks a question, and the meme asks, who gets served a plate first? Your dad or your husband? And so the whole premise is, if you're in an environment where as a woman, you are in the company of your dad and your husband, who gets served their plate first? And I thought that the comments were all over the place.
Okay.
Some women said my dad, because that's my first love, and he's the elder of the rest of us in the room. So he gets served first based on the fact he's an elder. But then other women were like, nah, my husband gets served first because I've now left my home, my childhood home, my father's covering, so to speak, and I honor him first, so I serve him. And then some women were like, it just doesn't matter. Whoever ends up getting it first gets it first. There's no rhyme or reason. So it's literally all over the place.
Okay.
And I was like, this is bananas. I mean, I grew up in a household where my mom always served my dad. And it wasn't from a chauvinist standpoint. My dad will fix his own plate if he wants.
Right.
He'll sometimes fix my mom's plate. But I'm just saying.
And he'll cook.
He does cook.
He loves to cook.
Yeah. I actually got my love of cooking from my dad, not really my mom. My mom loves to clean. Cooking, she doesn't really prefer that. And so I just laying the ground rules for those who don't know my dad, thinking like, oh, well, that's why she think that way, because she's coming from a subservient mom. No, my dad will sweep, mop. He's put in laundry, whatever. Anyway, she always served my dad, and she always told me that once you get married, your husband comes before your dad. So once I started getting to the age where it would be expected that I would probably be getting married at some point in time, she would say to me, you always see me serve your dad, but I want you to know that when you get a husband, you should serve your husband before your dad. It just so happens I have a husband that just doesn't get caught up in the weeds of certain things. Right. So I feel like if I gave my dad a plate first, you're not flying off the handle. But my mom's take on it, that's the way she taught me. Right. Serve your husband. Almost out of like, that's your dad is not your husband.
Right. And so, I'm not going to fly off the handle if you serve your dad first. But I think that question is apropos and actually really a telling question, because it shows where the honor goes first. So it's really trying to say, okay, in this instance, should you honor your husband or your father first?
Yeah.
And then that'll spill over into other things.
Yes. I like that you said that it goes beyond just a plate. Because, Mark, it can be tricky, I feel like, in that specific situation, because my dad is now a senior citizen. So I think that's why sometimes you're like, no, Jay, just get your dad his plate and then, I'm good. But like you said, really, if you dig deeper, the question is not just about a plate of food. In life, who do you honor first? And I have to say, ladies, my personal belief is that in life in general, you honor your husband first. So it's God, then husband, then children, and then so on and so forth down the line. But the way I was taught and the way I believe it's even in the Bible even says, therefore shall a man leave his mother and father, cleave to his wife. I mean, the two are becoming one. So I believe that the only person I should honor above my husband is God. I can't think of who else I should be honoring above you if it's not God.
Yeah.
But I know some women feel like, well, that's ridiculous. Aren't they responsible for who you are today? I mean, yes, but it's not biblically sound, in my opinion, to honor them before I even get to my household.
Yeah, and I think that some people struggle with who to honor first, your parents or your spouse, because either they didn't see good examples of healthy marriages or they don't have healthy relationships with their parents. And there's exceptions to every rule. So somebody out there is going to be like, oh, no, I have great relationships with my parents, but I still honor them first before my spouse. And listen, you can do what you do. However, when there's a healthy connection to parents and there's a healthy marriage, you will honor your spouse first because you have become one with your partner, and your parents play a role, but they don't play that kind of essential role. So the honor naturally is going to flow to your spouse before anybody else. Even your children cannot intercept the relationship between you and your spouse. You can love your children to death, but because you have literally become one in body, soul, and spirit with your spouse, nobody else can come before that. So your honor is always going to be slanted and bent towards your spouse before anybody else.
You're right. I absolutely agree. The order should be God, spouse, children. And I feel like after that, it just goes to who else you need to honor. And I say even children right after spouse, because your household is your first ministry. Your charity begins at home. I actually don't think it's right for me to make sure that my parents are good and then my kids are destitute. So if my parents need my help, that's not a crime. I should help them if I can. But let's say they both need help at the same time. They both are in dire need of clothes. I personally believe I should see to it that my children get clothes first. Then after that, whatever I have left, I do the best I can and take care of my parents. But I don't think that when the Bible says honor your mother and father so your days will be long in the land, God means honor them to the point of neglect of your spouse and then your children. That's not what God, that's not honor. That's out of balance. That's what that is.
It's out of balance. It's not healthy. Your kids will leave you.
Yeah. Just like we left our parents.
Your kids will abandon you.
Oh my God.
Your kids will leave you. Listen, they'll leave you in the cold.
Oh no.
Your kids don't care. Listen.
Y'all, my son will not abandon me, y'all.
Your kids don't care.
Oh.
Listen, when it comes to their friends, when it comes to someone they love.
Right.
If they gonna, if they need to go out on a date or if they, want to go on a trip and stuff they don't care about you. Mm-hmm. So why are you out here living your life for your kids?
Yeah.
You need to raise them. Mm-hmm. You need to instill values in them. You need to cultivate godliness within them and do your best. But just know they are loaned to you. Yeah. And the day that they figure out that, hey, I'm not supposed to live here. I'm not supposed to be here. My life is bigger than staying up under my parents. Yeah. They're ghosts. Mm-hmm. They're gone. And you're going to be left high and dry looking at your spouse like, who is this stranger in my bed? There's a stranger in your bed because you've honored other people before your spouse.
That's good, Mark.
There's a stranger in your bed because you'll drop everything for other people, for your parents, but yet you won't drop everything for your spouse. So here's where the problem comes into the marriage, is that we don't have a problem. The spouse doesn't have a problem if you fix a parent's plate before theirs. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But if you are bending over backwards for your parents and you're not doing the same for your spouse, the spouse will be salty. They will be salty because they're feeling like I am in a second position.
Yeah.
And the day your spouse feels like they're in a second position is the day you're going to have insecurity issues and problem in your marriage, because your spouse needs to feel like number one in everything.
Yeah. And it's funny because we have counseled with couples where one party will say, listen, my in-law got behind on this bill or that bill. And, my spouse started slipping the money to take care of it. But now my in-law keeps coming back and my spouse keeps giving. How do we handle that? And we've always told couples, there has to be a meeting and an agreement between both parties. Because in the couples that we've counseled, most times the party that had the complaint, the issue wasn't necessarily that their spouse helped their parent. It was more of, hey, it's becoming a habit. You're not even running it past me now. It's just your parent calls and says, you know what, I need 500. You know what, I need 150. I need 100. And because we have it in our account, my spouse thinks it's okay to just keep giving it away. But even when it's your parent, and even if the need is real, and they're not just asking for shopping spree money, but they really need money, you still have to honor your spouse by discussing it with them. You don't get to say, because it's my parent and we have enough money in our account to give them the money, I don't need to say anything to you. That's another form of dishonor. To say, it's my parent and I earn income in this house, so I'm going to slip them however much money they ask me for. That's dishonor if you've not run it past your spouse. And people don't sometimes realize that.
People don't realize that. And the love that you're supposed to have for your spouse is different than the love that you have for anybody else. So that then means that the honor you have for your spouse would be different than the honor you have for anybody else.
Right.
And so if God commands that the husband should love his wife as Christ loved the church and gave his life for it, if your love has to be that level of sacrificial for your wife, then you can't be out here sacrificing for your mama more than you sacrifice for your wife.
Yeah.
You can miss me with that. Because if you're going to go that hard for your mom and give your life for your mom, you better be doing it for your spouse 10 times more. You better be doing it for your wife 10 times more.
Yep.
And that is when guys get in trouble, husbands get in trouble, because they've never cut the umbilical cord from their mama.
But do you think guys that don't cut the umbilical cord, do you believe that it starts with the mom, though? Do you think in most instances it starts with the mom?
Let's go.
Because I have a mother-in-law who does not baby you. She doesn't. I feel like sometimes I talk to your mom more than you do. Just out of
Yeah.
Personalities also, you're not, as much of a phone person. So I'll check in with her. But she's never, and I can say this honestly, she has never meddled in our relationship. She's never come in and told me how to raise my kids. If anything, she's like, man, Jay, you're doing a great job with your kids. You do stuff that I didn't even do with mine that maybe I should have done.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you not being a mama's boy is because you had a mom that was like this. Like, she was always like, I love you. I care for you. Sometimes it drives your sister up a wall, but sometimes it seems like she takes up for you when you and your sister are having your feuds. But it's never translated into mama's boy. So as a man, do you think, even though there's always an exception, that most men who are mama's boys struggle with that, not because it's really their fault, but their mom didn't cut the cord?
Yes.
Okay.
So a man can struggle with, not disengaging properly from their mother in a healthy way so that they can be a full, strong, whole man.
Yeah.
And that could be because of the mama and her responsibility in it. But at some point, as a man, you have to take responsibility.
No matter how your mom raised you.
So if your mom is clingy and she is that type, you're going to have to walk down that road with her so that you can explain it. And it may take time and time and time and time, but you will have to put in the work.
I like that.
So that you can be strong, healthy, and independent as a man.
I like that.
And then care for your family in the way that makes your family successful, because your family cannot be successful if you're divided, right?
Yeah.
A divided man or a double-minded person is unstable in all of their ways.
That's Bible.
So if you're talking about what the Bible says, we're thinking about it in this context or that context. If you apply it to marriage, if you're a double-minded husband and you're connected still to your mama, then you're unstable in your own family, and you can't be the provider and the protector that God needs you to be.
Wow.
Because you're divided and still connected to your mom in an unhealthy way. So the onus is on you at some point. You're a grown man now.
That's true. Wow.
Like, listen, put away, the boy toys and grow up. You're a grown man now. You have to have these conversations.
Like in the Bible, what does it say? When I was a child, I
spoke as a child, thought like a child, but now that I'm full grown,
I put away childish things. So I like, Mark, that you said, even if it starts with the mom, ultimately, once you're a grown man, it is actually your responsibility to now cut the cord. You can no longer say, I'm 35, but I cling to my mom more than my wife because that's how my mom raised me. Because you're like, no, at some point, if your mom's not going to tell you you need to move on, then you have to tell her, Mom, I got to move on.
Right.
That's good.
Right.
That's good. Right. So what advice then, Mark, do you have for a single mom who doesn't have the child's father in the picture for whatever reason? Because some women, they may be single, but some dads really do a great job of being there for their child, even if they're no longer with the mom. And I do want to shout out those men that do that, because I feel like men get a bad rap.
Right.
And
especially black men.
Yes, especially men of color get a bad rap. So I want to pause right here. My husband knows I'm big on saluting men, especially men of color that get a bad rap, because I know a lot of y'all may be single dads, but you're holding it down.
Right.
But for the mom who, for whatever reason, has a child whose father isn't in the picture, how does that mom raise a son without making him a mama's boy? Because now there's not that balance of a mom and a dad in the house.
So if you're a single mom and you're trying to raise a strong, healthy son, cultivate that boy into a man, you can't do it by yourself.
Oh, wow.
I feel like a woman is unable exclusively to raise a man.
Right.
And I think you can also flip it and say a dad will struggle to raise a healthy, secure woman. Raise her from a girl to a healthy, secure woman by himself. I don't think God built us that way, which is why God built the family structure.
Right.
That you need both parties so that the kids will be healthy and grow to be strong and whole.
And even though life happens, it was never his intention for us to intentionally go into parenthood alone.
Right. And so it is what it is.
Yeah.
You're single. Listen, we work it and we're going to be successful. But if you're a single mother, you have to find a man that you trust.
That's
whether
good.
It's an uncle, a brother, a neighbor, somebody,
even a grandfather if he's still around.
You have to find a male role model that can plug in and hit areas that you can't. You'll never hit certain areas for a boy that's growing into a young man.
That's true.
He needs a man to come through and raise him right. Like our son.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you be cringing sometimes. Listen, he loves soccer. He's excellent in soccer, but I knock him down.
Right.
You score 5 goals today? Yeah, but you missed this opportunity right here. Why did you lose the ball right there?
And a mom is just going to focus on the 5 goals that you made and be like, oh my gosh, that's so cute.
But what about your juggling? How come you can't control the ball? How come you don't have... So I'm always going to stay on how to make you better. And I'm going to do that in a manly way.
Yeah.
That brings out his strength, his confidence, his protector, his provider. He's going to need that for his family and his relationships.
And what he learns from his mom is how to treat a woman, how to
be soft, sensitive, and all that.
Without losing his manliness. But he knows, because of me, hey, the way I rough up my guy friends at school, I don't play with my sister like that. I don't play with my mom like that. I mean, sometimes he comes charging at you, punching you in the chest.
Right.
And you'll always make a joke and be like, why are you always bothering me? And he'll say, I can't punch mommy.
Yeah. And so that's what I would tell a single mom out there.
I think that's good.
Stop struggling. Stop being frustrated with, oh man, I need to do this myself. You're not alone. It takes a community. And if you don't have the community, it takes a village. And if you don't have all the pieces and the parcels and the parts to make up that village within your own home, listen, go and borrow some.
This is why I have to make a shameless plug to say, if you're not, wherever you live, if you are not a part of a community of believers, meaning a church, this is why strictly online church with no other interaction, in my opinion, doesn't work. Because maybe in your family, you don't have who you feel like should be the godly example for your son, but maybe there's a trusted male at your church. But if you I don't need church, well, there's a reason why God said not to forsake the assembling of yourselves together. It's more than just a Sunday morning experience. You really, if you're in a good Bible-based church, you really are. I feel like that's God's gift to us as Christians, to have that community to help us. And our church has even come in handy just with our kids, because we may have a 2-parent household, but sometimes we've had an emergency or we've needed a break. And we have 2 families in our church that we know we can trust with our kids. And it's a blessing. But we wouldn't have that if we felt like online only is the way to... If you're physically able to find a church in your city, and I know we didn't even start this conversation to talk about that, but somebody watching this maybe needs to hear it, because it just popped in my spirit to say that.
I think that the problem we have is that we haven't explored all of the means and methods of communication and community. Because what technology has done is that technology has produced barriers. And so we get comfortable behind these barriers and feel like we're still engaging in community. But that's not really the way that God made us. So through a Zoom call, it's not text. So you can see somebody's face, you can see their expressions, you can get their tone. So that is a more intimate form of communication than written communication. I get that. However, what you don't get and what you're missing out on is human touch.
Exactly.
We are not just intellectuals, but we are very sensory. We understand and feel. That's why God gave us skin. That's why he gave us the sense of touch. I'm not saying you're going around touching people inappropriately and stuff, but it is a form of communication. And so when you distance yourself from in-person community, then you will feel isolated because you're not exploring one of the 5 aspects of your senses.
Exactly.
You need all 5 to be engaged to be a whole person.
Yep.
And what happened was the pandemic came and we said as pastors, oh, this is dope. Online, we're going to reach way more people because a pastor innately is always trying to reach more people. We want everybody to meet Jesus. So we're like, let's go. Couple weeks in, we were like, hold up, let's pump these brakes. Because we realized quickly that more people were being reached, but more people were not being touched.
That's good. Oh my goodness.
I'm preaching
this is about to turn into like a YouTube for for church and not marriage, but But I guess we could end it then by saying whether you're a single mom, single dad, or a married couple, at the end of the day, all of those categories need community because that's how your marriage is going to be strengthened. That's how you can also learn how to honor your spouse. If you didn't see it done properly or in a way that God would honor and be proud of, that's another reason why getting in a church that has healthy couples, a healthy marriage ministry is so important. Because they can help you learn things that maybe you didn't get to see or experience as a child, but doesn't mean you can't learn it now. So that's how I'm putting the bow on it and tying it into how we started.
Listen, I like that bow. That's a dope bow to me because this is a great package. So we had a good time today, guys, and thanks for being with us for another episode of Breakfast with Mark and Jen. And we will catch you next time.
See ya.